he exited on the 25th, and he re-entered again on the 26th. This is correct. Now bear in mind, when you run an entry-exit report over the period of a full month of June, the entry-exit report will meld these two entry exits together and utilize the earliest entry date and the latest exit date and make one continuous program entry for this client. So I'm going to save and exit. And to put Ben Marker back with his family, because we want that group ID number, we have to open one of the existing family members' original check-ins. I'm going to go to the Stay Data tab where I will find the household information, and I'm going to utilize the Check-in Additional Family Members button to get Ben checked back in with his family so that he will have the correct group ID number. As I said, he checked out on the 11th. He's coming back on the 13th. So I changed the unit entry data to the 13th. I'm going to click next to Ben's record, and I'm going to assign him to his bed. He's in room 2, bed 3. Select and save and exit. Now notice that right now I'm seeing John's information at the top of my screen, and I want to ensure that I don't alter John's original unit entry of the 10th when the family originally came in. So I'm going to have to check him as soon as I get done here. I'm going to save and exit, and I'm going to save and exit. Now I want to be sure that the system recorded my information correctly. So first I'm going to check Ben's records. I'm going to visit the Entry Exit button, and we see that everything looks good so far. I'm going to go to the Service Transaction tab to the Shelter Stay tab, and we see that he checked in on the 10th. He left on the 11th, and see that? The system got it wrong. He did not come back until the 13th, so I need to edit that. Change that to the 13th. And save. Now this looks correct, so I'm going to save and exit. We know, as I warned you, we also have to check John's record. So I'm navigating to John's record. His shelter stay looks correct. He never left since check-in on the 10th. So I'm going to check his entry and exit tab, and we see that that looks alright as well. If I go to his stay data, it's showing his original entry as of the 10th, so everything should be fine. I'm going to save and exit. So take concern when it's a family member leaving and coming back, you double visit the two that you use to accomplish the second check-in. The system has been known to make some errors the first time around with this. And no matter if you have to visit it 5 times, do, because you want these dates to be correct. Once again, I'll show you. I'm going to visit Ben's record, his original check-in date of the 10th. I'm going to go to the Service Transactions tab, to the Shelter Stay tab, and look at this. It didn't save it correctly again. So, first visit was from the 10th to the 11th, and then he left on the 13th. So I'm going to save that again, and save and exit. Let's just take another peek to make sure things are okay. Now it looks alright. Very, very, very important that you visit your shelter stays on people who check in and check out, and make sure the system doesn't mess your dates up. Bowman is working on this problem. We do expect them to have a fix in due time. So I'm going to save and exit one more time, and just for the sake of being secure, I'm going to check Ben's record again. Everything looks alright, so save and close. Now, there's another way to make sure that your data is being recorded correctly, and that's in your Reports menu item in your control panel. I'm going to go to Reports. The Daily Unit Report is where all of the automated shelter services will display to you over a period of time. This report is something that becomes very useful in comparing to your daily sign-in sheets. Let's go in and run this report for the 1st of June through today's date. I'm going to build the report. So what we see at the top of this report is a total section that runs from the start date to the end date of our report, and we see various columns. To the far right, there are columns for gender, or perhaps people that we have neglected to answer their gender. The first column to the right of the date is the total column, and next to that on the right is the unique total column. Now don't be too upset if your number in the total bed nights is greater in the total column. That can occur, for example, when you move a client from one bed to another bed. It's going to show 2 beds using in the total column here. Hopefully your unique total will add up correctly. However, don't worry, because it's down here lower in the center section where it shows the information on a daily basis. This is what's important. This is the section you should be able to compare to your nightly sign-in sheets for those who are staying the night on each day of your report. So in remembering Ben Marker, we're going to use a drop down here at the top of the report to look at the last day that Ben was here before visiting his grandparents. And I'm going to scroll down to the center detail section. We see Ben was in family room 2, bed 3. And so let's look on the 11th, the day that Ben checks out to go stay with his grandparents. We still see him in our family section, room 2, bed 3. But if we look way over on the right, we see that he checked out. Yes, under checked out as of 6/11. So looking at the 12th, we probably won't see Ben Marker here at all, and we don't. There's no one in family room 2, bed 3. So if we go back and we look at the 13th when Ben returned, now we see Ben back in his same bed 3, checked in again on the 13th, and so on and so forth. If you want to check Jerry's check-in and check-out, we remember he originally came in on the 24th. So we see him in the men's section in bed 5 in our barracks. And we're going to move to the 25th. This is the day he checked out, so here he is, and the yes demonstrates that he was checking out on this day. So he's not there the night between the 25th and the 26th. On the 26th, he comes back. So remember, regardless of what you see in the total section here, what you see in the center detail section on a daily basis is the important information. This is what is going to match all of your art reports, which in the case of DHS ESP, that's what's actually used for billing, is this data here. This is what pulls into your bed report in the art reporting system. So that's how you can keep an eye on a regular basis on what's going on in the system, and you can compare it to your daily sign-in sheets for the night. So let's go back to ShelterPoint and look at our bed list again. We have the full complement of people who are in our shelter as of the date of today. One thing I wanted to show you was how to record services against everybody in your shelter very rapidly. For this example, I want to show you how to create a meal service. You could do this up to 3, 4, 5 times a day as needed, and serve everybody in your shelter in under 1 minute in ShelterPoint. This is through the use of ScamPoint. So I'm going to navigate to ScamPoint, and this is how you would record a meal service. we end up in ShelterPoint on the Provide Service tab. This is where we create the meals service. This pulls from a drop-down list that you create on your provider page setup. And we'll say that this service was this morning's breakfast, which began at 8 a.m. So I'm going to tab through, put zeros, make sure this says a.m. And breakfast ends at 10. So on today's date at 10 a.m. the service ended. And I can very quickly now choose clients from my unit list, or bed list as we used to call it. Tell the system which bed list I want. Here's everybody that was in my shelter. I can check them all. Now, say somebody missed breakfast this morning. Perhaps John Marker was out looking for work. He missed breakfast. I can unselect his name. And I notice I'm only showing the first the first 10 of my 14 clients, so I can look at the next screen to see the rest of them, verify that they were here for breakfast. And once I hit the Enter Service for Clients button, the system has now recorded that service against all but one client in my shelter. So you can see that ShelterPoint can be a very useful way to add additional regular services other than those shelter stays, which are recorded automatically in the background from the ShelterPoint bed check-in. So this becomes a very nice, easy way to add more services. The other way to add additional services directly from the bed list screen is to simply click on a client name. And from there, we can navigate to the Service Transaction tab, and from there to the Services tab, the Regular Services tab. Here's that meal I just recorded. And I can add another service by clicking that button, which jumps into ShelterPoint for me, takes me to the Service Transaction area, where I can add another service. Always be sure to populate the end and start date of your services. Denote what kind it was. And notice I've got a clock problem here, so I'm going to click this button. This calendar item will select the current time. And I can add funding sources if I wish on my services using this method. When I'm done, I save and exit, and I've now recorded an additional service for this client. Jump back to ShelterPoint, to my bed list. Now if I check that client, under the Service Transaction tab, I can see all the needs. Here's the one for the automated bed shelter stay. We notice one is identified but not closed out. I'm going to open that one up. We see I forgot to add the status and outcome, so I'm going to close the service and say it was fully met. Save and exit, and let's take a peek at that client again. Thomas Bartle, service transactions, needs, all closed except for the automated shelter stay, which is in progress. Services, these are the services recorded outside of the automated bed stay. So here we see two. One says provided, one doesn't say anything. Let's take a peek at that one. This was for meals. I don't see why it doesn't say yes there. Perhaps that's something Bowman will need to look at. I wouldn't worry too much about it. We did record it. Back to ShelterPoint, back to the client, back to the Service Transactions tab. Let's this time look at the services. We see